An art project weaving the stories of the countless Cubans who've set off to sea to escape the island nation and oppression. On display are the items, some practical, some not, telling stories of Cubans who say goodbye to family and friends to embark on a treacherous sea journey here to the U.S. NBC6 anchor Roxanne Vargas has details.
Built with metal and wood scraps picked up from surface streets in Cuba.
Cuban ingenuity to be able to create something when you don't have the...
This is actually a piece of a bicycle that's connecting the steering to the wood mast. Rust from drifting days at the mercy of the sea. And aboard this makeshift raft, desperation, fear, hope.
And they were on the ocean for about 12 days from Christmas until just after the New Year, in about 20 to 25 mile an hour winds with high seas.
6 years ago, Max Hector met the last Cubans who arrived ashore in the Florida Keys before the end of the wet foot, dry foot policy. 12 people were on this raft, or balsa.
And to think of having to endure a journey and an experience like that to seek a better life really created a wild perspective for me.
Fascination for the Cuban people, culture, and struggle with their government fueled this passion project. At the very beginning of the year, he started collecting boats or makeshift rafts that washed up here.
We had some of these different boats showing up, and people called us because they knew we had this one and said, you know, hey, there's another one here. Would you be interested in checking it out? And looking at it again, it was fascinating. You know, this was all made from hand, welded from pieces that were scrapped together from different shipyards, stolen from different places.
Since the ending of wet foot, dry foot, it's really impossible to know how many have touched land, and even less, how many were left at sea. But according to the U.S. Coast Guard, in the last 5 years, more than 8,000 migrants have been detained at sea. Some vessels that make the trip are more sophisticated. Max, an experienced water instructor, says this boat can make the 90-mile journey in about 14 hours in good weather. And on board, wrapped in plastic bags, food, clothes, batteries, machetes, even condoms. But as these balsas wash up on shore, they get a fresh coat of paint from artists with Cuban roots, hoping to share their story. And on display here on Grassy Key, to share these stories of sacrifice and hope in these vessels.
Everybody says 90 miles to Cuba from Key West. You don't realize how close it is until you see 12 guys float up on a homemade boat that they've been at sea for, you know, multiple days in heavy conditions in.
Max says this project is perfectly timed with the recent uprising in Cuba, the people against the oppression from the government. He says those 8 vessels are displayed along mile marker 59 in the Florida Keys, where millions of visitors drive every year, and hopes that this art of freedom continues that conversation for change. Roxanne Vargas, NBC6 News.